make it that it would, we would vote on it tonight, so it would have to be introduced and seconded, and then we would vote only on the amendment.
So I guess what I'm asking for is I'm requesting to amend the article to include the estimated impact as appears on this page to reflect Ashland impact 15 cents, Campton impact 17 cents, Holderness impact 9 cents, Plymouth impact 24 cents, Romney impact 17 cents, Thornton impact 13 cents, and Wentworth impact 23 cents per thousand.
Okay, so there is a proposed amendment on the floor. Is there a second to that amendment?
I'll second it.
Marion Barnsley, I second.
Okay, it's been, an amendment has been proposed and seconded, amendment to Article 3. All those in favor say aye. Oh, there's a further discussion on the amendment.
Speak to the amendment.
Speak to the amendment.
I've been advised that because of the wording of the article, raise and appropriate, we have to raise $750,000, regardless of how much we receive in donations. I've been advised by two different people. Okay, then that's wrong, but I was advised that fact, so.
Okay. Is there a comment from the front table about
You want to comment?
that? Dan?
So I'd like to speak to the amendment as a citizen of one of the member towns.
Okay.
So I'm stepping with. So Dan Rossner, I live in Holderness. My concern about the amendment, and I'm not trying to speak against it, I just want to be, I would ask that because you were specific and referenced the numbers on the tax estimate impact worksheet, which I prepared, right? As if the article is amended in any other further way tonight. So for example, if there were amendment to limit the amount to be raised through taxation because the donations are at a certain level, you give me the flexibility to change the numbers on the ballot to reflect the maximum amount raised, not the numbers that are on the sheet. So the numbers that are on the sheet is if the whole if the entire $749,000 had to be raised through taxes. Those are the numbers on the sheet. If donations reduced the amount to be raised through taxes, those numbers would go down. And I would just ask for that flexibility at the last possible moment.
Yep. I don't know where that leaves us as far as the amendment wording goes that we're going to vote on. Can I just make it honest? Sure.
Melinda Barnsley, Plymouth. The reason we wanted to add this is I have heard from many residents, they're looking at this dollar amount and they're thinking that they are the ones, their town is going to have to do this amount. So it's probably going to get voted down unless you have something broken out. Now, I don't know if it's possible to change the ballot the closer you get to the election. Do you know when you're going to know the total amount that you've raised? So you have to work with the towns because they have to have their ballots ready.
Right. Yeah.
I'm just going to go back to the microphone because I think it's what people want. So when this article was first developed, there was a multi-stage process that was discussed, and I'm hoping to have my back to the board. But there's two parts to the whole equation, two dates that I just want to think about. The first date is tonight. So tonight, the motion, there could be a motion to limit the amount of that 749 that's raised through taxes, because you expect you have a certain amount of donations now, or you expect to get more donations. The deadline for the ballot printing is after tonight. We have to have the ballot available. There's new laws about the ballots being handicap accessible and a whole bunch of stuff. So the deadline for figuring out what the ballots are actually going to say is tonight. That being said, the next deadline is September 1. September 1 is the day we report known revenues, updated revenues to the State Department of Revenue Administration, who sets the tax rates. So if between tonight, or when the article was first formed, and September 1, donations come in, I'm just gonna throw a number out there, $350,000, $375,000, half of the amount, for example. We would report that revenue from donations, which would offset the total cost and reduce the amount to be raised, which is why I'm really cautious about that tax worksheet. It's, once again, the tax worksheet on the tables is if the whole $749,998 had to be raised through taxes. Any donations we get, some of which have already come in, would reduce that amount. Now, there's much more we're expecting, whatever, but once again, there's two deadlines. There's tonight, and then there's September 1, before the tax rate process gets locked down.
Yes, sir, Ted's gonna speak and then,
I would say that the wording that we would want to add is to a maximum of, depending on the things that Dan just outlined. A maximum of this amount per 1,000, depending on donations. Something of that nature.
That's fine.
Sir.
Hi, Paul Daly from Plymouth. I've been involved with youth sports a lot of years. Not football, but hockey and whatever. And one thing that's not considered here is I'm not against lights. I'm against higher taxes. And I think lights are a good idea. But whenever you're raising money to do something, the people that, the boosters or whoever's raising the money to help out with this, the volunteers or whatever, usually you have to come up with at least half in donated money before anything is granted by a municipality. That's what I'm used to. So the fact that we're voting to say, yep, we're gonna do it and maybe we'll get some money later doesn't make sense. I don't know how you want to put that in wording, but I don't know if it's ever been considered that, sure, I think it's a great idea, but the people that are gonna benefit by it need to come to the table and get all their friends and buddies and everything else and pack the place, as they call it, to make some money. And bingos and whatever, all those kind of things make enough money to at least meet halfway and then say, yep, we're on board. We'll go with the other half, but you can't stop your fundraising until it's all paid for and paid back to the taxpayer in a result of not raising our taxes, because you'll never get money back. So, not even gonna try that trick. So that's my thought is, what's wrong with going halfway? It only makes sense. It's fiscally responsible. It puts the onus on the people that are gonna benefit the most by it, and everybody gets what they want. They just have to work hard.
Are you suggesting an amendment to the amendment, or are you?
If I knew how to word that, I would do that for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Bonnie Sears, I'm from Plymouth, and this fundraising thing is great, I like that. But I feel like I'm at a casino gambling, because I don't know if we're gonna get it or not. And I know the taxes every year has gone up and up and up. And then I look at the things with the homeless people, and I'm like, a lot of people were renting an apartment, and the taxes would go up, and then the landlord had to go up on the rent. And these people couldn't keep up with it. Now, all this stuff is good, the lights and everything. I love the kids, I love the sports, I love everything. I mean, how about an indoor Olympic swimming pool? If we could do that, that would be wonderful.
We can.
But, we can?
Let's work on this.
Well, you might, but I can't. But anyway, the bottom line is the money, and I agree with what Philip McCormick, everything that he said, and Paul Daly, and my brain works with common sense, and common sense tells me I could get bit in the butt if this is passed. And if this goes to the voters, and you say school board recommended, a lot of people are gonna say, well, it looks good to me, school board recommended it, so they'll vote yes. I think we're gonna get awful surprised when we get the bill on this.
Okay, so you're making a point, and you're not adding an amendment one or the
Oh,
other.
no, but I would like to see it just not happen this year, completely,
Okay.
okay?
Yep.
Thank you.
Any responses from the front?
Hi, I'm Kathy Bentwood, I live in Plymouth. My apologies, because Phil did a whole lot of homework on this, and I really know, and I really shouldn't want this, because you're in my backyard. That light is right in my backyard. However, I will support anything that gets kids off screens, and this means all kids, not just a special team, but anything that provides extracurricular stuff outdoors for kids. I think it's incredibly important. However, I will not support one dime of this on our tax rate. I moved here 50 years ago. The first thing we did was help Willie and Charlie Edgel move after they lived on Highland Street for 50 years, never had children, loved Plymouth, but could no longer afford the Plymouth tax, and especially the impact of the school. Last month, John and I helped a local person who lives up on Stagecoach Road. She had her house for 40 years. Husband died 2 years ago. Property taxes went up. After 40 years, she had to sell her house. She thought she had a place, maybe a condo, and telling you, that did not work out. She's now living in a fairly rundown apartment in Bristol. I just met with her today. So my question to you maybe is, if you raise money privately for this, and I'm thinking a three-way match, Alex Ray, the Joseph Foundation, New Hampshire Charitable Foundation, solar panels, direct DC current, right to the lights, would it still have to come to the town if you raise money privately? Do you know?
I don't have the answer to the question, but I'll
Okay.
put it out if there's anyone at the front table.
Okay, so I sort of feel like the Lorax. I'm just speaking for the people who've had to move out of town because of property taxes.
Is there an answer to that question?
Yes.
Can the board answer that question?
Yes,
Has that
I
been
tried to
considered?
set it up if there's a response from the front first.
Okay.
So I'm going to try and answer, I know you said the town, but I want to be clear, there's 7 towns, right?
Right.
So,
But my friend didn't live in Seven Towns. She just lived in Plymouth.
okay, that's fine. There's absolutely, when you talk about private donations, that's exactly what the intent and what's already going on. There are meetings, there are checks already being received, and there are meetings actively happening. There were a couple of meetings this week. I don't know that the potential donors want their names thrown out there yet, but
Yeah, let's mention this too.
Good evening, Kyla Welch, Superintendent. So the warrant articles were passed about a month ago. So the fundraising has really just started. And it's an effort to obviously lower the tax rate, knowing that that's an issue. But you're right, you don't know what that amount is gonna be. The board's recommendation, and it was a majority vote from the board level, was to put it out to taxpayers to choose what they want. This was a community piece that came to the board, and when we did the strategic planning around it, other things were talked about, turf, track, other pieces on the facilities. This came up as a need for lacrosse and soccer field and the football field, not just because of games, but for practices, and even winter practices as well, as far as Nordic accessing all of it. So it's not around just the handful of varsity games that are played as well. As far as fundraising in that month, we have met with some donors that are okay with us to share their names. Common Man and Alex Ray has committed to donating. We just talked with them this week. So like I said,
Over the whole thing.
yeah, what,
Just the whole thing.
please, yeah, right. And the other businesses, Owl's Nest, also said we can share that they will be donating as well as offering us, if it passes, they said they would give us, one of the buildings if we want to have a golf tournament or something like that as well. So the hope is the maximum is the $749,000 for the 2 fields. It would benefit more than 300 students, given our teams and access to those fields. That's just in-house. We already have community teams using these fields. The Huskies use them, and then it would potentially open up to other local organizations that can use them as well. Again, it's something that the board did not want to include in their budget, but even if the amount was zero, it's a community decision and a philosophical decision if you want lights on the field. So that's why it's out there. The voters want it, great. If not, we'll deal. So it's one of those pieces that it's really up to the sending towns to see if it's something that really is needed. And you can go out and vote for it however you want. And that was the board's recommendation. Am I missing anything on that piece?
Yeah.
Todd, am I missing anything as far as the need? So we're in process, and the hope is we have to let this company know right after the vote in March if we're moving forward. So if we don't have the funding, or if it's reduced, we still may not be able to push forward with it if we don't have that funding. But it's a no means no article. If the towns vote no, it's a no even if we get the $750,000 the day after the vote. So it's that philosophical piece and it's the cost. And the reason it's on a separate warrant article is for the towns to decide what they want to do. It is a philosophical change as well, as you can see given the lively discussion on social media and in towns as well. So it's a choice for all the communities. And I answered that okay?
Yeah, you did.
Thank you.
Amy Lee, Plymouth. I just want to know what sort of grant opportunities have been looked into. I feel like I'm in support of lights, however, I feel like it was rushed and the work wasn't there. So I know that you got the cost of what it's gonna be, etc. But what other grant opportunities, did you apply for any? Did you just say, no, we're gonna just put it on the warrant and get the money? I think it's important for the voters to know. And I think it would be also super helpful if we knew how much already was raised. And I know that it's a moving target, but I feel like you're gonna have much more support if you say, yes, we've already raised $150,000, for example. The support would be there if the number was there. It sort of puts an ultimatum, I feel like, on the voter by saying, upon execution, we'll tell you the number. It's like a secret that no
Dan,
one wants to tell.
what have we raised so far?
We received $11,800 as of this morning.
Yeah.
Mr. Moderator,
Miss Dan,
there's an amendment on the floor.
there is. And I guess we can bring it to a vote unless there's more discussion on the amendment.
I just wanted to say one thing. Sorry. Katrina Kendrick, Campton, New Hampshire. I have been in Plymouth since 1997 when I moved from Maine. Friday Night Lights, yep, up there. But I have a son that entered high school. Coach Sanborn mentioned a one-time flat rate for this. I just want you all to know that. My town of Campton, I would pay $45. I'm asking all of you to go talk to your townspeople, ask them to donate towards the high school so your taxes don't go up. If we can start donating more, like, I'm gonna go out and say, hey, can you donate $45 to our schools so that we don't have to raise taxes? The more fundraising we can do, the better. And I know I understand the price and the taxes and everything, but everything goes up all the time. And it's nice that it's just one time, 45. Just my example.
Thank you. Any further comments from the board or?
I'm Cam Sinclair, I live in Plymouth. I wasn't going to make these comments tonight. I was going to make other comments, but just listening, my family moved here in 1984, and they were talking about lights for the football field back then. They were talking about a track for the track team back then. It's been 40 years, and we're still talking about it. And God forbid for a lot of people when soccer came into this town, and some of you know what that involved to get soccer going, but it did. And when we build a new elementary school, we'll put a soccer field there, which will take care of the soccer. And they'll have a gym, which will also take care of, they can play high school games there as well. Well, they built the school and the field was too small for a varsity soccer game. And the gym was too small for varsity basketball. So 40 years of planning has just created so many problems that could have been addressed. If they're talking about lights 40 years ago, why is it taking 40 years to get to this point? When I left the Plymouth school system, I became a guidance counselor at Laconia and became the girls soccer coach there, which was a brand new sport. I came in at year one, and the Laconia School Board does not fund a new sport for 2 years. The players have to raise, and the coach have to raise the money themselves. So yeah, imagine what a budget is for 1 year of varsity coach's salary, JV coach's salary, bus transportation, uniforms, referees. Those girls raised $15,000 over the course of one season. So that's just one team. We have a lot of teams here that are going to use these fields, who do use these fields. So, to get it right now, I say you got to work for it. And you got to earn it. And go to work, roll up your sleeves. That's just one comment I have. And my other comments I made to the board a couple of months ago, there's no lights being proposed for the girls' field hockey field when they practice. Maybe they like to play a night game. And I was told, well, they only practice a short amount of time, and they're off the practice field before it gets dark. Well, you know and I know it gets dark around 4 o'clock. So, I'm pretty sure they need lights or would like to have lights. So where are they in this equation? Are we looking for a Title IX lawsuit? When soccer got into the schools, the girls' soccer got into, it came after the boys' soccer team, came in as a JV game. And the schedule had 10 games. And I spoke to the administration, I said, well, every JV team in this high school has the same number of games as the varsity. The varsity girls soccer team has 16 games. We only have 10, and JV girls soccer is a new sport. So I said, well, I'm going to file a Title IX discrimination. And guess what? We got the same number of games. So it might come to that, I don't know. You're looking at a potential lawsuit if the girls' field hockey team doesn't get lights on their field. We're not done yet. My other question is, it's a matter of priorities. I'm not against lights on all the fields at all. It's a matter of priorities. There was no track in Plymouth High School back in '84. There still is no track. Those kids compete. They have to go away. They can't host track meets here. Boys have to travel. Why are we not talking about a facility and training opportunities for the track and field team? I mentioned last time I spoke, there's a big field down below, the ski jump. The college owns it. They're happy to let our teams practice down there, which they do, the football and soccer. I'm sure they'd be happy to, and they have track at Plymouth State now. Maybe a cooperative effort could be made to put some sort of track facility down there. Maybe even it's just a practice facility. But, they've been overlooked for 40 plus years or more. And why aren't we talking about them? So, that's it, I'm done.
Thank you. Well, let's bring this back to the amendment that is the only thing we can vote on tonight. And if we don't have an amendment that we can vote on, then this would, we're not going to vote on the article because that's going to be done at the, by ballot. So I just want to clarify the amendment. Ted, I'm looking at you again, and is that something that you can put on the floor now? I mean, come up and say, this is what it would be with all the other, where your amendment would be. And then after Ted is done putting it on the floor, moving it, we'd need a second, and then we could vote, if we're gonna vote on the amendment.
Okay, so my proposal was to amend the article to include the tax impact, the estimated tax impacts to a maximum of 15 cents per thousand for Ashland, 17 cents per thousand for Campton, 9 cents per thousand for Holderness, 24 cents per thousand for Plymouth, 17 cents per thousand for Romney, 13 cents per thousand for Thornton, and 23 cents per thousand for Wentworth. And those would be the maximum values in lieu of any revenues generated by donations.
Okay, is that, Dan, in your opinion, would that,
I can work with that if it's seconded and passes the vote of the floor.
okay. Is there a second to,
I'll second. Marion Barnes.
okay, it's, Ted's amendment's been moved and seconded, which now we'll bring it to a vote. All those in favor of Mr. Winitsky's amendment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
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 By my ears, I think the ayes have it. What's that?
Shouldn't we do a count?
Oh, we can do a standing count if you'd like. All those in favor, please stand. And I need some people to do some counting of this section. And
To add the tax
counting of the shares in your section.
Yeah. The high level of the tax rate. I mean, that's fine.
What's that? Oh, yeah. Okay. Marcia, can you count these? What's that? And the board, yeah. And, Kathy, what can you count the board of people that are behind you that are standing?
Yeah, we're there. That's a yes, I would say.
26 on my side of the room, including the board and the monitor and the clerks, or the supervisor.
How many on that side?
Can I ask a question? Because I'm really confused. If I voted for that, I'm really against 1 penny going into the taxpayers. I'm really.
I don't know, I can't guide you on that
There's
at
nothing
all.
to do with that?
What's that?
No, it doesn't, no. Doesn't, okay, my team answered for me. So the number is 20 for years.
It's a total of 51. And that was in favor of the amendment. For those opposed, please rise. And Marcia, if you can count. Yeah, do all down this way.
I think we're there.
Well, 51 people voted in favor of the amendment, 13 voted no. The amendment passes. So the way this will work is that this article will appeal on the ballot with the amendment. And it's the first time we've had an amendment since I've been moderator here, so I think that's how it's going to work. So, but the Article 3 as amended appear on the...
Are you closing discussion on the full article?
Oh, I guess that's a good idea, Dan. Thank you for that suggestion.
One last question.
What's that?
So can you help me, Mary Beth Matt with Plymouth? I have a question about how this comes to be a warrant now. Can you just clarify for me how it gets to be a warrant without a commitment to raise half of the funds? I love the philosophical discussion that putting it out there, this is a decision for the community, and I support that. I'd like to know in terms of the process of how it becomes a warrant. Is there a possibility for the group to say, we're committed to raising 50% of this from individuals through grants, through sponsorships? What's the protocol for how it comes to be a warrant with 100% of it right now being required through taxpayer dollars?
Sure. Dan, jump in if I say something. The board had a lengthy discussion about that specifically, about capping the amount to half, and depending on, say if it was $350,000 and that the rest would come from fundraising. The cost that we got for this, to move the project forward for this summer, the answer to the company would need to be right after March. There is little, I think anybody from the board jump in, there's a very slim chance we're gonna raise $350,000 in from December to March. So even if it passed at $350,000, we might be able to move forward with that, but that's not a guarantee. But it's certainly something that the board deliberated and said, well, we'll go with the maximum, and then whatever we can fundraise, we'll just reduce, and we can move forward with the project, and we can fundraise till September 1st, if it's a yes vote on the warrant article. If it's a no article, it's just a no across the board, even if we have the funds. So.
And has this been a project that's been in the works and development for a couple of years?
We started talking, it's definitely a couple of years at this point as far as the facilities strategic planning, yes.
And the urgency to get it on this year is what?
So the pricing came, so I would, and correct me if I'm wrong, we talked about moving forward with the pricing over retreat, and then in the fall, move forward with the pricing for this year. As far as we'll just move forward with the lights, we're not gonna move forward with the turf. The turf cost was a few $1 million, just not ready to do that. We talked about what goes first if we were to look at turf or lights. And when the engineers talked to us, they said that we had to do, you can do turf first, then lights.
You can't.
No, that was not, you were not able to do that. If you're gonna do something, it would be the lights and then the turf. So hold on the turf, it's too big. The track cost is significantly higher than this as well. And to do the two fields was cheaper overall cost to come do them at once. And to expand the need to more kids.
And was this bid out to a couple of different companies?
So do you want to talk about that as far as Todd and Liza?
Sure.
And is that information available to taxpayers?
Yeah, we've talked about it
It's
in
been
public
public,
session.
yeah.
Yeah, so you want me to use the mic?
All the sponsors, all the advertisers.
Hey, I'm Todd Austin, the athletic director. We had two engineering companies come in and give us some quotes, and they came in, did the survey of the fields, looked at placement of the light poles, everything in that. So the first company, the engineering alone was like a $90,000 price tag. So we went with a different engineering firm to do the initial process of surveying the fields. And then we had the lighting companies give us their quotes. Musco Lighting is what we went with. They have a 25-year warranty that is excellent, covers labor, parts, everything that we would need in the first 25 years if this project went through. That was a significant reason why Musco was the company we went with. They gave us the price, the 749,000, that's a price for this year. If this were to not pass, as most things do, most likely that cost would go up if we were to revisit this at another time. So that's where we're at. I don't know if I answered that correctly or?
Yeah, thanks.
Dan, I don't know that we have a discussion, need a discussion on the entire article as amended, because there's only one path to go from here, and that is that the amended article, unless there's another amendment, the amended article will be on the ballot. That's the only road we can take. And we had some of that discussion beforehand, but is there any further discussion
On the amendment, or?
No, the amendment is a done deal,
Okay,
unless there's another amendment.
nah, I'm gonna leave that up to Ted. That's his role. So Marion Barnsley, Plymouth, I will try not to repeat everything that's been said, but it will take my 5 minutes of fame. So as others have shared, I think everybody here would agree that sports play an important part in kids' lives. I see it every day with my staff members, the pride even when they maybe not quite lose, but just when they win, not even a championship, I see it. You see good, strong kids come out of that. Proud mama moment, played softball my whole life. When my daughter wanted to play softball in her freshman year, I couldn't have been happier. It only lasted a season. But my point is, we all, I think, agree that sports play an important part. However, because there always is one, you know what I'd like to see worked on? Paying our teachers more, retaining better quality teachers. That's what I would like to see. I would like to see science labs increased, our computer systems, AI, wow, that's a crazy thought. Now, to Chris's point, I get not one-time things. That's what I'd like to see. Sports definitely plays an important role, but in Googling my world, and I know most parents aren't thinking my kid's gonna make it to the NFL, the NBA, but you know how many kids do get to drafts? 0.001% of kids make it all the way through college and into drafts. I'm sorry, right? So kids are already doing great here. We could be doing way better. This small number of kids, as opposed to science labs and libraries and teachers, we don't do enough. So that's my point on that. Let's see. I don't want to belabor Ted's, but honestly, to your benefit, if you want to see it pass, which obviously you do, to see those figures, I don't mind paying. I'm broke as everybody else, but I don't mind paying $25 per 100,000. In our case, maybe $75 a year. But you don't say that, and I know we've amended it. I won't belabor, but I think it would benefit anyone who wants to see this, to see those numbers. Fundraising. Why can't we fundraise now and next year go, hey, we fundraised $350,000. Now we're gonna go to the vendor. Now we're gonna say, we're gonna approach the town and $350,000. Why don't we do that instead of jumping right to a warrant? I know someone asked about grants. I don't think I ever heard an answer to that. I'll assume due diligence. Energy Commission, I know I've mentioned it before. I know there was thought that there was.
We're meeting with them February 13th.
Awesome. So once again, not to rush stuff through, where are those savings? Assuming that there are savings. Why isn't that there? I'm sure people will be happy to know really what it comes down to. Let's see, I swear I'm not gonna go much longer. I did want to, once again, take my 5 minutes of fame and address folks who are concerned that they don't have kids in school. Why are they paying this money? Well, you know what? I don't have a kid in school anymore. However, I know I want well-educated people. I know I want my plumber to be well-educated. Sorry. Right? I want my business owner to be well-educated. Right? These are everyday people, and that plumber, unfortunately, is not gonna be my daughter. And it probably won't be your kid either. But you'll want that educated plumber. So it's important. When you are sick, you want a well-educated nurse. You want well-educated researchers. You want well-educated doctors. Those are not going to be most likely your kids, except maybe for Anne, because her kids are amazing. So, once again, for those people who strongly believe they should not be paying school taxes, you're wrong. You're just wrong. Okay, that's my 5 minutes.
Okay, I think we'll close discussion on Article 3.
I just wanted to say one more thing. Can I?
You will be the last one to speak on Article 3, if you want to speak to that.
All right. I just would like to make it perfectly clear, I'm not against sports for the kids. I'm not against, my kids played sports, it was wonderful, my grandkids all played sports. I think it's great. But there again, my grandkids' parents struggle every time the tax bill comes in. That's my big concern, it's just the tax bill. I'm for everything. Don't think I'm anti-kid and anti-sports, okay?
I'm not making any judgments.
All right, I just want to make that clear.
And so now we are through, Article 3 will appear on the warrant as amended. Article 4, operating budget, is shall the Pemi Baker Regional School District vote to raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of the first session, which is us. For the purposes set forth therein, totaling $18,213,301. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $17,959,829, which is the same as last year with certain adjustments required by previous action of the Pemi Baker Regional School Board or by law. Or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13, Roman numerals 10 and 16, to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. This sum excludes the sum in warrant articles 2 and 3. The school board recommends this article. Is there any discussion on Article 4?
I just have a question.
Marcia?
I'm Marcia Schmidt-Blaine from Plymouth. I have a question because of everything that's happening in Washington, D.C., and given that your budget was put together before the attempted impoundment, which is now in the courts, and the current discussion of eliminating the Department of Education. If either or both of those things happen, what will be the impact on this budget?
Well, we do collect a few of the federal grants under IDEA, which is the special education grant, as well as the Title I grant, which is the reading intervention and math intervention grant, coming directly from, those are the federal funds. Am I missing any of the other?
Perkins is a big one.
And the Perkins grant, which is part of our Career Tech Center grant. So those are what are the allocations stand for those?
Can I?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I want to speak just directly to that question. On the last page of the budget handout is the revenue page. Okay, and there are several line items on that page, which are line items that would have been impacted for the current year had that impoundment been not withdrawn. And next year is an unknown. We don't know what the Congress is going to do. But specifically, the line items in this revenue budget that are impacted by federal decisions include, starting close to the top, you have Medicaid. Next year's budget is $40,000 in Medicaid revenue. That's one of the programs that was involved.
Which document is that?
This is the budget, the 28-page document.
It's the last page
It's the
of this
last
packet.
page. The last page of the packet is the revenue budget, right? You've got the expense budget is the first 27 pages, and then the revenue is the last one. So about 5 lines down, you have Medicaid. This year's budget for Medicaid revenue is $45,000. Next year is $40,000. Skip down about 2/3 of the way down. Federal fund revenue, IDEA. That's the Individuals with Disabilities in Education Act. Budgeted revenue next year, $140,000. Title I, $175,000. Perkins, which goes towards the CTE Center, $45,000. And as well, almost near the bottom, you've got the food service program, right? So you got about $175,000 in federal revenues. That was also a part of the discussion on the national news last week. And the answer to your question, I believe that you're looking for is, if any of those changes were to come to fruition for next year, the board would have to make a decision to either cut the programs from the educational side, which is the expense side, or raise more than the bottom line. Right now, this calls for a bottom line net assessment to the 7 towns of $14,020,000, right? That's the very bottom right-hand corner. So that's, once the federal budget comes to fruition this summer, if all these things are still expected to happen, I talked earlier about that September 1 deadline for updating projected revenues prior to the tax rates being set this coming fall. If we knew that those federal revenues weren't going to happen because of the federal budget process, the board would make a decision. Do we cut the programs? Do we raise that much more in taxes? And that's the board's authority once an appropriations budget is adopted by the communities.
Is there any other questions or comments on Article 4?
Yeah, I just have a question. This 18,213, I mean 18,213,000, and that, did you say it doesn't include for the lights and doesn't include the 109,000? It doesn't include it, so you add that on to that, right?
Correct. If they pass.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? Hearing none, Article 4 will appear on the budget on the ballot as written. Which brings us to the end of the meeting, really. We have, thank you all for your attendance and your good comments and questions. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. And if you don't, then we're adjourned. We are adjourned.